Good evening, everyone. I
Good
would
evening.
like to call the Schenectady City Council Committee meeting on
Has
Monday,
joined the
May
meeting.
the 18th, 2020 to order. And we will go into administration and efficiency. And just for the record, Mr. Kosher is unavailable for this evening meeting. And I will ask Mr. Palomini to chair this committee.
Okay, first item on the agenda tonight is the discussion amending Chapter 6 of the Code of the City of Schenectady regarding affirmative action with Mr. Mudavaran and Mr. Gardner.
Mr. Palomini, we will ask that we hold this item for additional 2 more weeks. The draft is still under review, and we'll bring it back in 2 more weeks. Hopefully that we will have a conclusion by then.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now we'll call to order the Finance Committee. The first item on the agenda is the DeCamp sidewalk and call for a public hearing creating a special assessment district on a portion of DeCamp Avenue. So we've been discussing the DeCamp Avenue sidewalks for some time now. As we all know, the residents on the street asked for a special assessment district to be created for the sidewalks. Various issues have arisen, and we're proposing a solution to put the price at $55.44 per linear foot. That would put the price back in line with what the estimates for the sidewalks that were given to the residents on the street were originally. Just to give an idea, a 40-foot sidewalk would be $2,217.60. Of course, that would be able to be paid off over a 10-year period with interest, or it could be paid off in whole at once, or however the resident would like. But this at least gets the sidewalk prices back in line what was originally cited to them. The idea being that they were given information that we had as best knowledge of us, and they were forwarded that, and they should expect to receive what they were given as an estimate. That kind of puts us where we're at with the
Has joined the meeting.
price. The next issue would be communicating that with the residents. There will be a letter that will be developed and handed to every single member of the owner of the street, on the street, so that there's no issues with communication. And because we are changing the price, there would be a new call for a public hearing for the residents to have an opportunity to comment on this. And there'll be information provided to them as to when the hearing would be, so that they have all the available information possible. Is there any questions? Are there any questions, I should say?
Mr. Palomini?
Yes, Ms. Porterfield.
I wasn't, you said something about, I should have maybe stopped right then, because there was something I wasn't clear about. It seemed like you talked about what the cost was going to be. There was interest. And it seemed like you were indicating something about the communication of the project. Were you talking about the communication in-house or the communication to the residents?
Communication to the residents. The letter will be hand delivered to every single resident or house to make sure that it is received by those individuals. And the information for the public hearing will be included in that communication, so that everyone is aware and can participate should they choose.
So a follow-up question. I know that they had to sign a petition to do that. Will they have to start over again with their petition, or we're going to be using the one that they initially used?
Has joined the meeting.
It would be the one that was originally used, since we had acted on that one, and that is a legal as far as I know, legally binding.
If for some reason some people on that list should change their mind, then what would happen?
They will have an opportunity to communicate with us as well as the public hearing, and they'll have their voices heard.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Palmini,
Yes, Mr. Mudavarian.
you mentioned, just for the record, you just mentioned that letters are going to go out. You also want to acknowledge that you are also working on the new cost breakdown, and
Yes.
that will also accompany the letter,
Yes, thank you for
so
reminding
that
me
each
about
of the
that.
homeowner will have an opportunity to have a copy of the letter addressing to them directly, and also the cost breakdown
Correct.
and a
So,
list of the frontage and the overall cost.
so we are finalizing, working on a spreadsheet that will be included with the letter. We were double checking with the assessment rolls. We have found several mistakes with what was included to us originally. There were wrong address, wrong frontages. So there needed to be a number of corrections made. We are in the process of finalizing those and should have that done in the next day or two. But that will certainly be included to all the residents so that they know what their exact cost should be.
Mr. Palmini.
Yes,
Also, we want to mention also our intention is to reach out to the homeowners who are living on the corners to
Yes.
engage them and to get their approval if they would like to do the Eastern Avenue or the Central Parkway in this special assessment program.
correct.
So
That's
those are the things we intend to engage these four homeowners at the same time to make sure that we have everything lined up in order. And we also are in communication with Ms. Laurie Batchelor to communicate this event to her, and hopefully we can get it to the, with her help and the association help, to get this information to the homeowners and to be open communication with them.
That's correct. We will be reaching out to the owners of the four corners to see if they want to go around onto Eastern and Central, the corners, if you will. We will also be subtracting out the 20 feet for the handicap accessible walkway. So they are not charged for that. All four corners have already been done, so they shouldn't be charged for that. So there's going to be considerable outreach and make sure that the communications are done this time. All right, nothing further, then I'll ask for a motion, motion for a call for a public hearing.
Palmini, if I may ask, I'm seeing Ms. Laurie Batchelor on here. If you don't mind, can we ask her if she has any
Absolutely.
contribution?
I didn't see her online, so go ahead, Ms. Batchelor.
Sorry. Yeah, I just saw her online. And if you mind,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
yes.
I can't see anybody, but I'm hearing the conversation. I really appreciate what the three of you have done to reach out to me. I just want to really point out a couple of things. I have been in communication with the DeKalb Facebook page, which is about a third of the residents. As I have said to all three of you, there's a lot of hesitance. They are feeling like the communication was so poor, they're not confident in the trust of this. I know that many asked about opting out. Others are saying, let's just do it. I mean, it's dividing the street. And I have to tell you that it's even dividing my house. My husband does not want to sign on. I'm trying to be supportive
Has
of this.
joined the meeting.
And as a result of this, I think the challenge is, again, is this initiative going to continue? If DeKalb signs on, is this going to continue or is this over? Because then the question becomes, if it's not going to continue, you have then asked the DeKalb residents and the Ardsley residents to pay a assessment fee over a period of time, and no other streets in the city will have to do that. And so the question again becomes, how come 2 streets out of the whole city are having a special assessment district after this? We appreciated the price. I'm so glad you went back because that is going to probably move this forward on our street, I believe. And again, the question continues to be, does that include the curbs of the islands? We have 3 big islands on our street, and I have yet to hear a confirmation that this includes that. So those are our questions. Is the curbs on the islands included in this price? And then the question somebody else said, so the city is going to pick up the difference, which still comes out of our taxpayer dollars. So can you answer the question, is this project going to continue after DeCamp if we move forward or not? And are the curbs included? And as you come door to door, just know that you will have some that'll be very happy and others that are going to probably be very disappointed in waiting. It has been 2 years since we signed that petition. And some of you had promised our streets at least paving almost 5 years ago, and it never even got paved. It's just like driving across bumps. So those are our concerns, and I told Mr. Mutavaran that I was going to just bring up those concerns, and those are the things you should be ready to speak to when you do hand out your letter door to door.
So the program will continue. We'll obviously have to address it to fix what is wrong and make sure we don't have any issues with it going forward. The curbs in the island are a separate issue altogether, and those, as far as I know, are being done with the paving. And I believe that's both your questions.
Mr. Palmini,
yes.
if I may ask, interrupt you. Mr. Walling is online here. Can we have him to kind of give us an update on what is included in the paving and if those curbs are included?
Yeah, if Mr. Wong can just address whether or not the curbs are included.
The island curbs are included, but they are not part of the cost assessed to the homeowners.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. Yeah. So just to reiterate on Ms. Batchelor comments, yes, and that's the reason why we are working on getting new letters. We're working on getting a new cost breakdown to make sure that we covered all the corners before we start to distribute it out to the residents.
Yeah.
And once we have that completed, we will reach out to you first before we start delivering these letters and cost breakdown so that you have an opportunity to look at it.
Thank you.
All right, so can I have a
Thank you.
motion for a public hearing?
So,
First and
Second.
seconded. All
Yeah.
those in favor?
aye.
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 Next on the agenda is the resolution supporting the New York State Empire State Development Smart Cities and Innovative Partnership Municipal Testbed Grant Application. That's a mouthful, with the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the governor's budget and the one adopted by the legislature about April 1st, there is some money for some test beds, and I'm asking the council to do a resolution in support of an application that's being prepared now to address some of the criteria that the state is putting forth, and then also help market some of the things that we already have deployed here in the city.
Are there any questions?
Yes, Mr. Palomini?
Ms. Porterfield, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, if you could tell us the amount of the grant, and I did have an opportunity to review some of the information on the application, and I know there were specific things that they were looking at that they would be considering more than others. So could you tell us exactly what we would be applying for as part of our Smart Cities initiative?
The application has not been developed enough to the point where I could quote you an exact figure on it. Hopefully by next Monday, I could give you a better ballpark in terms of what we're looking for.
Any other questions?
Yeah, but the second part of that question is, I know there's like many components to smart cities. Is there a particular component that we're looking to apply them for the money?
Again, our general one is to build out the network so that it will support the applications for city services, working with the school district, medical community, and the business community as a whole.
Thank you.
How many?
Ms. Perazzo.
Are they funding these grants in total, or is there a city match, or what if they come back and fund it partially? What does that look like for us?
At this point, it would be, my understanding is it's full, but we also are spending money simultaneously, which hopefully will give us more credibility and a ranking system, rank our application higher than some other communities.
Any other questions? All right, so can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
This is Carmel. Mr. President, may I open the Health and Recreation Committee meeting?
Yes.
Okay. First on the agenda is Ms. Perazzo would like to speak about streamlining the process for restaurants to obtain more outdoor dining.
Has
Ms.
left the
Perazzo?
meeting.
Before you proceed, Ms. Patrick, we didn't get around to add another extension to this discussion. So there is also going to be discussing outdoor dining also with additional street closing.
Oh, yes.
Ms.
Yes.
Perazzo, both is under Ms. Perazzo name.
Yes. So Ms.
Go ahead.
Perazzo.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I kind of see it as one topic, but our neighbors in Saratoga as well as in Albany are having this discussion right now. And I think, it's an important component. And we all received an email today also talking about maybe using outdoor space for retail as well. And as you know, this has been a significant hardship on our restaurants, our retail, our small business owners in the city. And I just think, there are a lot of bells and whistles and hoops to jump through. And if we can try to find a way to make it easier for business owners to possibly use their parking lot for, social distance dining, or use a little bit more of the sidewalk, or possibly talk about some, side street closings that may benefit some restaurants. I don't know. I was trying to think about that today, and I think that would be pretty challenging. But there may be some instances where some business owners have some ideas. I would just really like to see us try to work with our local business and make it as easy as possible, that when the governor says it's okay to open, and under particular guidelines, that we might make it easier for our businesses. So I turn to Mr. Wallen and Mr. Lund for any ideas that they have, and any ways the council might adjust things.
Well, I'd like to address it first, Lisa, that in the executive orders I've issued have waived the fee. It's normally a $250 fee, so that it would expedite that process. We've had ongoing discussions with the leadership of the DSIC. There was a conference call last, I think, Thursday, which talked about some of these issues. The consensus seemed to be that the businesses are more interested in getting open on a more gradual basis. They don't think things are going to just come back overnight. And so as they do that, to look simultaneously at some of these opportunities, whether some of the space on J Street or adjacent streets or sidewalks could be used for service areas, or, as pointed out, possibility of retail. And I'm open to that. In the short term, what I've been looking to do is do it with the emergency declarations, what it does is it gives an expedited process. And at the same time, if you had somebody that is non-compliant, where they do something in a manner that might be considered detrimental to themselves or other ones, we can shut it down quicker. Somebody went through the normal permit process, we give it to them, we'd have to cite them, probably go back to court. And not that I'm saying that people would do that, but just have to look at all the possible scenarios here. So in the short term, we've waived the fees. I think this tonight again raises the discussion, so people start to think about possibilities and how do we create an atmosphere where people have the confidence to go to businesses in Schenectady that they are undertaking the proper protocols and procedures to ensure that the environment is safe. We're minimizing the ability to spread the virus, and want to map out environment again where they can grow and we get back to the level we were doing business 8 or 9 weeks ago.
That's good to know that it's being discussed, and if you would please add that information as it goes forward to your update on a bi-weekly basis, so that we know how that's proceeding, that would be great. And in the meantime, if we get any suggestions from local business, pass them along.
Thank you. Yes, we'll do that.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion on this?
I just did have one quick question based on what the mayor has said. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms.
No, go ahead.
Based on what the mayor has said, Mayor, when you're talking about the reopening of restaurants, are we specifically talking, and well, in correlation with what Ms. Peraza was saying, are we really specifically focused on downtown, because many other restaurants are spread out in terms of street closing? So I guess, Mayor, directly to you.
The ones that would look to utilize city streets are more in the downtown area. The other area would be Upper Union Street. Other venues throughout the city, I think they have parking lots or other space that they control, and it wouldn't necessarily involve permission or working with the city. So again, on the initial area of focus, it's downtown and then on Upper Union Street.
All right.
If you have a venue that has questions or ideas or potential problems or perceived obstacles, please forward them to me and we'll try and work with them in the best way we can.
And just to clarify, because I don't spend a lot of time downtown right now, are there restaurants who are currently open for delivery only or pickup only in our downtown?
Yes, there are a number of venues that are open for takeout.
Okay. Well, I just see this as maybe the next step to now take out. Maybe they could sit outside. So, okay. Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patrick.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Call to order public safety, and we have 2 items this evening. First one is a COVID-19 update. Mayor McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, we continue to meet internally with different components of city staff to monitor the delivery of services, to minimize the impact of the COVID-19 event. I think we're all now starting to focus on what we hope tomorrow this region will be given the authorization to start to reopen. And that, even under the governor's plan, is not something that happens immediately. It's done in a phased in approach, so that I think everybody has the list of businesses in the different categories that they fit into. And it's uncharted water. So as we go through this, we want to try and be flexible. We want to try and assist businesses, residents, just entities within the community. And we know at the same time that it's not necessarily going to be as smooth as anybody would like. So if people hear of problems or situations that you think that we should address, or there might be some way that we could help a business, please feel free to reach out to me, and we'll again try and work with everybody to get back to some level of normalcy in the near future. And I don't think council has any questions or comments on specifics.
Mayor, I do have a
Any
question.
questions?
Sure.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. These questions in particular that have been brought to me, first of all, regarding the parks and how that, I'm not even sure which phase that is in, frankly, I have to say that to you. And beyond that, the basketball hoops that are on streets, people are, I've had several calls about people who have, because they can't go to the park, are now setting up basketball hoops on streets, which does a couple of things. It creates that congregating that we're trying to minimize. And in addition to that, it's on some levels is blocking traffic. So where are we in terms of that? And if that's happening, what is the person's recourse? That's one question.
We've taken all the basketball hoops down in the city parks. If you're aware of those situations where, again, people are what I'll call making poor choices, if you can send me an address that we'll do the follow-up on it. We're looking at what we're going to do this summer. There's probably a good chance that we will not open the city pools because of just the pools right now under the guidelines cannot be opened, and they're fairly well down in the kind of timeline of events. We've been talking to the city school district, Boys and Girls Club, in terms of how we will be able to provide some opportunities within our parks in a coordinated manner with other providers within the community to help, kids who at this point have been out of school approximately 90 days or will have been out of school by the end of June when school normally ended. They're going to have 60 days in the summer, and there's a good chance there won't be a hard opening for the schools in September. It'll be more of a phased approach, and there'll be new conditions that are put in place within the schools to maintain the social distancing, to minimize the potential spread of the virus. And so all these things have the really potential for large disruptive impacts on the learning of these kids. And we're trying to map out scenarios to provide opportunity this summer. At this point, I don't have a clear game plan of what we're going to do. And the council has ideas or suggestions, please feel free to put those forward, but it's a dynamic process that we're going through, and we appreciate everyone's patience as we try and reposition this community to deal with what's generally a difficult situation.
Okay, and my other question has to do with churches. I know that they can't open in terms of the building, but there are several churches that want to do, like, they have names, Park and Praise, which people just drive up in their cars. They can get out and sit, but they still have to do social distancing. Do they have to get permission from the city to do that?
Generally, I would say no. We've had some churches who have reached out, and I would encourage others, just more of a courtesy to notify the police department, where some of those scenarios may create traffic issues, so that we could provide a police officer to do some traffic directing and guidance, so that we don't want people to get hurt or in some way create an auto accident if we could avoid it. So we want people to come out and have a good time and be able to derive some of the strength that's generated from the faith-based community.
Okay. And finally, one question that has to do with hair salons. And so, does the city have the opportunity to give suggestions to, based on input from residents and people in the industry, to give suggestions to the governor's office? There was one state, I don't want to say the state because I think I know it is, but anyway, which said that blow dryers is something that could not be used. And so I've heard from salon owners that, that's like an essential part of their business. So do you get to give input based on feedback from people in the industry in our city in terms of how that rolls out?
There's anybody can forward information to the State Economic Development, which is driving this. They also have the regional control rooms now. Roy Fluman, the county manager, Schenectady's representative. Kathy Sheehan is also on it, the mayor of Albany, and just had a telephone conference with her and some other mayors in the region, trying to take these ideas, suggestions, and make sure that the state is aware of the full impact that some of the decisions they make have on communities, so that, encourage you, Mary, if you have somebody, let them call directly, because a lot of times it's better. They understand the details and are more able to articulate what I'll call a common sense approach to a situation than having it relayed through 2 or 3 people.
Yeah, right. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr.
Any other
Mudavari.
question? Any other question from the council for Mayor McCarthy? Thank you, Mayor. Next item is discussion, plan change to North Ferry Street Pump Station. Ms. Porterfield, you've asked for this to be added to the agenda.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mudavari. So I'm sure that all the council members received the emails from Mr. Millett, I believe it's how his name is pronounced, and also Mr. Giacalone, and hopefully that the mayor's office also got this information. It is part of the backup I can see tonight. So the concerns that were brought up are that there have been changes made to these particular plans. The one gentleman, you can see in his email that he said he's been reaching out to the Stockade Association regarding his concerns and not getting anything back, which is why he reached out to the city council. But there is in fact some changes are made that make a significant difference in the neighborhood, other than what they were anticipated. And that his question was, had these been floated by the had these been brought back to the council in terms of the changes? So I asked for this item so for the backup materials here, for this items to be brought forward for discussion. And in fact, we would hear from, I'm not sure, maybe perhaps Mr. LaFond, in terms of any changes with that and what that does to the original plan that was approved through the city council.
Mr. LaFond is not available tonight, and I can either have him and Mike Miller brief you in the next day or two, or have it on for 2 weeks. There are weekly briefings that are given to the Stockade Association and community leaders there on the progress not only of the pump station, but of the forced main that now most of the work is completed in the Stockade. In fact, they're moving up the bike path and they're completing the work where they're crossing Knott Street with that pipeline. But whatever you want, Marion, it can either get you set up in the next day or two, or can come back in 2 weeks to give you a more detailed explanation.
Well, I would like to know pretty specifically in the next day or two, because according to the email we got, there's some significant changes, and I'd like to know if in fact that is correct. That these changes have been made, because I don't recall, my colleagues can jump in if any other recalls, that there was nothing that came back to the council that would change those plans significantly other than what we had approved. So there's feedback.
Plans are moving forward in the approved format. So we'll get you Paula Fond and Mike Miller the next day or two, we'll get that scheduled so that you can talk to them and go over it.
If you could include me on that, Mayor, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
And add that to the entire council, please,
Yeah.
so everyone is aware of what's going on.
Yes.
Thank you.
If I have everybody, you can do a briefing, but you have to understand that you can't take any action. You're going to have the whole council. We'll set up a WebEx to.
So, okay, you're saying that to us that we can hear the information, however, we can't ask questions?
That you have the majority of the council in a meeting
Okay.
so that you can get the briefing, but you can't take any action without giving notice that you were going to do that. So,
Oh,
even though
yeah, I think,
the explanation should alleviate anyone's concerns or the questions that have been raised.
okay, I understand that. And that also gives us a couple of days to review the information that we received from the 2 residents, at least 2, I think, perhaps 3 actual residents. So it gives an opportunity to review that and then the council to raise any questions that they may have based on that.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Mudavaren, can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Mayor, they're having weekly meetings. Is it would it be easier for us to be made aware of those meetings so that we can be informed directly instead of having Mr. LaFond or Miller having to come to one of our meetings? That may be a better way for us to kind of stay in the loop, if it's possible for any of the council members to attend.
I'm sure that you'd be welcome to those and can make that schedule available to you. And I apologize, they were doing in-person meetings. I assume those in-person meetings have stopped and they've gone to a virtual format over the last couple of weeks, but I'll confirm that and track down the time that they're actually happening.
Right. Mr. Mudavaren?
Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to clarify, Mayor, that we may get, that's great that we could be added to those meetings, but I still, in the next couple of days, would like to have us have a briefing on what's going on.
Yep,
Okay.
I understand that. We'll get that set up as soon as we can.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mudavaren.
No problem. Thank you. Okay, any other questions with regards to the pump station? Okay, thank you. Any other business before public safety?
Oh.
May I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone.
Thank
Our
you.
meeting has come to an end.
Thank you. Good night.
Everyone,
Thank you.
take care.
God bless the meeting. A participant